Welcome to Boozy Fest 2021 Fusion of Flavors. Just a few guidelines before we start the masterclass. Please mute your microphone during the class unless the speaker will open the class for questions. Set the screen on speaker view. Prepare your food and tasting kit. Sit back and enjoy the masterclass. The 2021 Boozy Fest Fusion of Flavors is presented by Globe, Shivas, Jacobs Creek, Jameson, Johnny Walker, The Singleton, and Tanqueray. In partnership with Barefoot Wine, Campari, The Dalmore, Jose Cuervo, Smirnoff Mule, So Nice Soju, and Tam Navulin. This event is also supported by Don Papa, Lala Move, WhenInManila.com, and DrinkManila.com. Welcome to Boozy Fest 2021 Fusion of Flavors. Just a few guidelines before we start the masterclass. Please mute your microphone during the class unless the speaker will open the class for questions. Set the screen on speaker view. Prepare your food and tasting kit. Sit back and enjoy the masterclass. The 2021 Boozy Fest Fusion of Flavors is presented by Globe, Shivas, Jacobs Creek, Jameson, Johnny Walker, The Singleton, and Tanqueray. In partnership with Barefoot Wine, Campari, The Dalmore, Jose Cuervo, Smirnoff Mule, So Nice Soju, and Tam Navulin. This event is also supported by Don Papa, Lala Move, WhenInManila.com, and DrinkManila.com. Welcome to Boozy Fest 2021 Fusion of Flavors. Just a few guidelines before we start the masterclass. Please mute your microphone during the class unless the speaker will open the class for questions. Set the screen on speaker view. Prepare your food and tasting kit. Sit back and enjoy the masterclass. The 2021 Boozy Fest Fusion of Flavors is presented by Globe, Shivas, Jacobs Creek, Jameson, Johnny Walker, The Singleton, and Tanqueray, in partnership with Barefoot Wine, Campari, The Dalmore, Jose Cuervo, Smirnoff Mule, So Nice Soju, and Tam Navulin. This event is also supported by Don Papa, Lala Move, WhenInManila.com, and DrinkManila.com.
There is a place called Sugarlandia. It is a timeless place where nature is still the dominant life force. Where things happen that seem just too strange to believe. Where time is deceptively fluid and your senses are heightened. It's a lush, fertile land in which sugarcane thrives. And the ancient sugar mills of Negros grind the noble cane, which in turn makes the special black gold molasses from which the rich and sweet Don Papa rum is distilled. For those who are wholeheartedly independent, and those who stand for what they believe in.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Boozy Fest 2021, Fusion of Flavors. If you're in this room, you're in the right place, because as you've seen from those two videos, we've got rum and chocolates. My name is Aaron Goodall, and I work with Don Papa Rum, and joining me this afternoon, we have Louise from Auro Chocolates, who will be my sidekick of sorts, telling us about the 3 fantastic chocolates included in our kits, as well as the process that goes into creating these award-winning chocolates. So inside our kits, we have the 20 cl Don Papa rum. We've got our 3 chocolates for this afternoon. So the 64% dark chocolate, the 42% milk chocolate, and lastly, the Regalo, the 85% dark chocolate. Along with that, we have some Don Papa postcards. We have our 3 amber bottles for the cocktail builds during the session. And lastly, we have our green tarsier glass as well. I've also got some spare glasses on the side because we'll be trying the rum neat, as well as building the 2 cocktails, as well as some ice on the side as well to stir these down and add a little bit of dilution and chill them nicely, and a bar spoon as well to give that a good stir. I do have a spare shot glass on the side to sort of measure the pours for the rum, but that's sort of it. If you don't have that, we can use our brown little bottle to measure as well. Okay, so on that note, let's have a little look at the flow for this afternoon's session. So we'll start with a bit of an introduction into both of the brands, looking quickly at the history of rum before going to the chocolate production. And then from there, we'll learn about where both of these brands are from, sort of the background that goes to creating these products. And then we'll look at the production techniques for both as well. So during this, though, we'll be trying the rum neat, we'll be pairing it with the chocolate, and then along the way, we'll be making our 2 cocktails and pairing those with chocolates as well. Cool. So if you guys do have any questions as we are progressing, please feel free to type them into the chat box. I believe the team will send that across to us, and then we can answer them on the fly as we go along. So let's jump into it, shall we? So this is me. I'm Aaron. I'm the Program Development Manager or the Brand Ambassador for Don Papa Rum. I'm half Australian, half Filipino, but I'm still learning Tagalog. I know I've said that for quite a while now, but been a little bit slow with that. I started in the food and beverage industry over 7 years ago now as a bartender in Singapore. And it was around that time that I started to hear about this Philippine rum brand that was making waves in the region. And of course, as we see on this next slide, that rum turned out to be Don Papa rum. And not long after that, I got to meet some of the team and learn more about the product itself. And over the last few years, I've watched as Don Papa Rum has continued to grow, releasing exciting products, delivering great events, and really connecting with people around the world. Here in the Philippines, we've just released our 8th expression, our Don Papa Port Casks finish, an homage to the quincentenary of the world's first circumnavigation, where we finish our Don Papa Rum in port casks for 5 years, creating a complex, fruity expression. So the Don Papa opportunity, how did Don Papa come about? Well, over the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen this rise in premium spirits brands, really driven by the growth in consumer knowledge for these categories. Here in the Philippines, we are home to the largest rum brand in the world in terms of volume. So there was this great opportunity for a premium, super premium, ultra premium rum on the market. And in 2012, the Bleeding Heart Rum Company launched Don Papa Rum. Hailing from Negros Island, Don Papa Rum was the first single island premium rum for the Philippines. And since then, we've had continual growth, and the brand is now available in over 30 countries around the world. We're doing great in places such as Germany, France, and the UK. And a little more recently here in the APAC region, we've added in South Korea, as well as Australia and New Zealand. So that's just a quick little nutshell for Don Papa and how we came about. But before we dive into the first expression, we'll just have a little look at some tips for tasting spirits. for anybody that might be new to this. So with tasting spirits, one of the first things we look at is the color. Color often gives us clues into the aging that goes into the spirit. Lighter spirits will tend to be aged for less time, whereas your darker spirits will tend to be aged typically in a barrel for longer periods of time. And then from there, we'll look at the nose, we'll have a smell of the rum, see what flavors we find. Then we'll have a little taste and see the mouthfeel and the tasting notes that go along with that as well. So if there's any first timers out there, I just want to say that this experience is very subjective. I mean, these are often linked to memories or flavors that are known to the person tasting them. So please feel free to share what you do discover with our rums as well. So first up, I'm just going to be using a Glencairn glass, but any style glass will do. So you want to have a smell of the rum, and here you'll unlock some notes, whether it's the fruitier notes, so things like bananas, pineapple, citrus, maybe even some mango. But you also might find some sweeter notes too, so things like caramel or butterscotch. You do want to hold it just a little bit away from your nose. If you hold it too close to your nose, the alcohol content might overwhelm the senses a little bit, but just a little distance away from the nose, and you should get some of these notes popping across there wonderfully. From there, we'll step to the tasting. So I like to do that in sort of a two-step process, where I take a small sip first to prepare the palate, and then the second sip, and this will then, you'll find more of those notes pop through. So as with the nosing, you might find some fruity notes, some spice notes, or some sweeter notes. But you might also find some things like hints of the wood in there as well, and the aging process that goes into these rums. So we'll have a little pour of our Don Papa into our glass. I actually might use my Tarsier glass. Why not? So we just want to pour a nice little bit into the glass there. Oh, actually won't be able to see the color, but whatever. Okay. So looking at the color of this wonderful liquid here, you'll see it's this lovely golden amber color here. This is down to the aging process for our Don Papa rum, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. So first up, have that smell. You'll find these wonderful caramel notes coming across the top there with some hints of vanilla. But then underneath, you might discover some of those fruity notes as well. So for myself, it's like a fresh pineapple through there. Okay, then let's have a little sip. Happy Saturday, everyone. And here with this sip, you sort of unlock more of those flavor profiles coming through. So you get these lovely hints of caramel and vanilla again at the front of the palate, but then towards the middle of the palate, you might discover something like a honey as well, and some dried fruits, like a candied orange for myself there. And then that finish, what we like to say for the finish is how the spirit lasts with you afterwards. So for the Don Papa rum, you get this lovely warm textured finish. It's not too bright or powerful that you might find with some spirits as well. It's sort of this perfectly well-rounded, I like to say it's like a nice hug that lasts for the right amount of time. Okay, so that's our first little tasting for this session so far. I will now hand you over to Louise. Good afternoon, Louise.
Hi, good afternoon, Aaron, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in tonight's session. Happy Saturday, everyone. So I'm Louise. I'm the marketing supervisor of Auro Chocolate, and same with Aaron, I've been in the F&B industry for 4 years, and I've been hosting a couple of tasting for Auro Chocolate. So for those who are not familiar with Auro Chocolate, I would like to share a bit more about us. So Auro Chocolate is a proudly Filipino, internationally awarded tree-to-bar chocolate brand rooted in sustainability. So the brand was founded in 2015. The company was founded in 2015, and the brand was launched in 2017. From there, the brand have continuously grown. Right now, we're available in Europe, US, and different continents, as well as in Asia. So we offer different cacao and chocolate products, including cacao beans, chocolate for baking, cooking, and of course our retail bars. And just recently we launched our eat category wherein we have this gelato and of course ice cream pops. And from there, we have been supplying to different businesses, Horeca, hotel restaurants and cafes, such as Peninsula Manila, Shangri-La, and restaurants like Hapag Manila, Lampara, and the likes. And with the pandemic happening, we also introduced our tasting class, and we're very happy to partner with Don Papa. So a bit more about our community work is that we work directly with our partnered farmers in Davao. And what we do is we standardize quality by purchasing the cacao beans at a much higher price. So I'll talk a bit more about that later on as we go through the program. So let's get into tasting. So just a few basic guidelines as well. So actually, Aaron already did a great job in introducing like some guidelines because as you can see, it's really similar to chocolate tasting. So let's all be independent tasters, follow our first instinct. There's no right and wrong answer. That's definitely the most important tip that I always share because when I initially started, I always kind of felt, am I saying the right things? Am I, tasting the right things? Again, it's all, rooted in our memories. And most of all, we're doing this to have fun and, enjoy the unique flavors of the rum and the chocolate. So, same with the rum tasting, we also follow steps on how to taste chocolate. So I would like for you guys, so for this session, we're going to start first with 64% dark chocolate. So the first step is to actually take a look, very similar to the rum. So first, take a look at the packaging. So once you've seen the packaging, go ahead and open your chocolate bar. So it's also very important to take a good look at your chocolate bar. So by looking at it, you can differentiate already what kind of chocolate you are going to try. Of course, there's a like when you say chocolate, you already have a color in mind, but later on you can see the difference because of the percentage or the amount of cacao present in the chocolate bar. And then one thing to note is that for chocolate, when it's exposed to sudden change in temperature, the cacao butter separates from the chocolate, causing it to bloom. So that's the white streaks you see in your chocolate bar. Is it still edible? Very much. So we get those questions quite often. And then next, same with rum. Take a good waft, like enjoy the aroma. By taking a good smell of it, you can already unlock hundreds, thousands of flavors, and also gives you an idea like what you're tasting. At the same time, it will help you to identify already like what will you probably taste. Like try to identify those notes. Is it floral, nutty, fruity? So those kinds of things to take in mind. And then lastly is I invite all of you to take a piece and just taste it. The very, very important is don't chew, just let it melt. Just let it melt. So try to identify those first notes, middle note, and then the last note. Let it coat your palate, and then after that, try to identify those flavors. So for our 64% dark chocolate, it has a very rich cocoa flavor, accented with raisins and walnuts. So what I want you guys to try to identify or think of, is it too dark or is it like what you're expecting for a 64% dark chocolate? Is it smooth? Did you get that nice snap from tempering? And do you taste some off flavors? Is it spicy? Is it cool? And in general, cacao is tannic or chocolate. So after tasting it, it would leave a sort of kind of similar actually to how the rum kind of like gives you the hug, I would say as well. And then from there, just try to get those notes and enjoy. And then if you feel like you weren't able to get or pinpoint those notes, try to take another piece. So that's how we usually do the tasting for chocolate.
Fantastic.
What do you think about it, Aaron? So far?
Yep, I'm learning. I'm learning as I go. This is super interesting as well. But yeah, I'm definitely noticing those flavors as I go from, like you're saying, from the start to the middle, and then also towards the finish there of what you're finding with the chocolate. So I think the 64% super interesting. You're not getting too bitter of a flavor from the chocolate that you might get with some darks as well. So it's still got that nice sort of sweetness in the middle of the palate. And I'm definitely finding a little bit of like the raisins that you're mentioning as well there. So we do have a question in the chat though for you. So how do we store chocolate properly? I heard we're not supposed to refrigerate. So that's from Jonathan.
Hi, Jonathan. So, yeah, actually, you can refrigerate your chocolate bars. The secret here is that when you open your chocolate bar, make sure to store it in a sealed airtight container and then store it in your ref. Now, let's say you want to taste it now. Take it off like around 10 to 15 minutes before you taste it or use it for baking. So that's the secret. And definitely you can put it in the refrigerator, especially here in the Philippines, wherein the climate or the room temp varies, especially depending on your location. Hope I answered your question.
Cool. So while we still have the chocolate sort of coating the mouth as well, what we want to do with the pairing today is to rediscover the rum as well. So while we have these lovely dark chocolate notes, have a sip of the rum and see how that alters the flavors that we find as well. So before, we're finding a lot of the sort of sweeter or fruitier notes. When you go back for that second sip, does it change? For myself, it sort of pulls the sweetness down a little bit with the rum and sort of does sort of include those darker notes that you might find with the chocolate, which is super interesting to try. And then for after the session for you guys as well, pick and mix the chocolates and see how each alters the rum tasting neat. You'll see that the flavors that you pick up from the rum will definitely change when you try the 85% dark chocolate or even the milk chocolate as well. So what do you think about that, Louise? What did you think about the tasting?
So after taking a sip of the rum, for me, it kind of heightened or actually amplified those candy fruit notes I get from the rum, and really complements the vanilla notes I found during the first and second sip in the session. And it really balances out each other. Actually, our 64% dark chocolate is also what we would say our well-rounded chocolate. So it's really like for me, they kind of really pull and push one another and, heighten those notes. But for me, I really enjoy the fruits in the end. That's something I really, personally, I found very interesting.
Yep. And then it's sort of like you're mentioning as well with the raisin notes that you find with the Auro chocolate. That's something that I even found there when taking that second sip of the rum. Some of the notes from the chocolate got elevated as well. So it's super cool to do that. Okay, so while you guys enjoy the pairing, we'll press on a little bit now and we'll have a look at, well, we'll start with Sugarlandia and where Don Papa is from. So with Sugarlandia, this is what we like to call our home of Don Papa, Negros Island. So here in the Philippines, we have this long history of cultivating purple cane and noble cane, the original variety of cane from this part of the world, which was only later exported during the era of the galleon trade. So here on Negros, there's this variant known as Caña Morada, which is slightly smaller and more slender than your traditional sugarcane. And it's this cane that we mainly use for Don Papa rum. Even though it is slightly smaller, more slender, it does have a higher sucrose purity and a lower fiber content, meaning that we end up with a higher quality molasses to then create our Don Papa rum. At the heart of Negros Island, we have the mighty Mount Canlaon, still very much active volcano. This activity, though, does mean that the soil on Negros is really lush and fertile, aiding the high quality nature of the local sugarcane that we use for our Don Papa rums. Another mighty figure of Negros, we have the man, the legend, Dionisio Magbuelas, also known as Papa Isio, the real-life charismatic leader who helped the Negrenses in their fight for independence from the Spanish back in the 1890s. And it's Papa Isio we pay tribute to with our name, Don Papa. And our branding imagery as well, if you notice on the bottle, we have different takes of the same character on all of our expressions. Not directly Papa Isio, but we're inspired by his character. So it's these fantastic elements all tied together that help to create Sugarlandia, the spiritual embodiment of Don Papa's home, Negros Island, a lush and fertile land in which sugarcane thrives, where the classic mills grind this noble cane, turning it into the special black gold molasses from which the rich, sweet Don Papa rum is distilled. And on that note, I will now pass you over to Louise to share a little bit about the home for Auro as well.
Thank you so much, Aaron. All I can say is like the similarities is so amazing. So for our chocolate, as I've said before, we don't own any farms. What we do is we work directly with our partners. We have the sustainable partnership with them, wherein we purchase the cacao beans at a much higher price. We have a unique pricing structure and offer them different kinds of workshops and empower them. We also have ongoing organic certification programs for them, which is very, of course, also important in cacao. And then, of course, we also have this different good farming practices. So for the cacao, it also all started with the Manila Acapulco galleon trade. So as early as 1600s, we already have cacao here in the Philippines, and it's all because of the Manila Acapulco galleon trade. So it's like, wow, that's really amazing, the similarities, you know. So nice. And then, so what happened from there is that since then, it has been deeply integrated in our daily lives. Like you can still, I'm sure you can still remember it with your tangere. So we have the chocolate, and of course, how we consume it as a champorado. And then so that's a brief history for Auro. And then now I want to share with you the tree to bar process. So with the tree to bar process, we of course first start with the harvesting of the cacao pods in our partner farm and the Davao. So right now, all of our beans are, their origin is in Davao. So of course, when the pods are fully ripened, we harvest them. And then once the cacao pods are of course open, the beans are now goes into fermentation. So there's a lot of people who are actually not familiar who have seen a cacao pod. So yes, chocolate do come from a fruit, which is cacao pod. And when you open it as a fully ripened fruit, it kind of looks like a mangosteen or santol. Even for taste, it tastes like mangosteen as a ripe fruit. So if you guys have chance to taste it as a fruit, I definitely would love you guys to experience it. It's a really unique experience on its own. So going back, fermentation is where we have, of course, it goes to fermentation to fully enhance the flavors of the cacao beans. Each cacao beans have their own recipe. And then once the beans are fully fermented, it goes into solar drying. So we solar dry the cacao beans because we want to eliminate, of course, bacteria, reduce moisture, because moisture is like one of the #1 enemies for cacao beans. So you don't want molds growing in your cacao beans, which of course will later on become your chocolate. So of course, through solar drying, we take out all those elements. So once the fermented and fully dried cacao beans, it now goes into sorting. So like coffee, I would say, we also there's also different kinds of variety for cacao. So we have Trinitario, Forastero, and Criollo. And for us, what we do is we sort the cacao beans by size, by location. We take around 3 to 4 times before we ship it to our chocolate factory in Laguna. And then, so why is it important to sort all the cacao beans properly? Is because when we roast them, you want the cacao beans of the same size to be roasted at the same, like with the same recipe. Imagine roasting a large cacao bean next with let's say a small cacao bean. Tendency is either the larger cacao bean would be over roasted, or the smaller cacao bean. The smaller cacao bean would be over roasted, or the larger cacao bean would be under roast, which we don't want, because with roasting you actually enhance and kill the enhance the flavors and kill the bacteria And then next is the winnowing and grinding. So these steps are taken in our chocolate factory. So the first step is like the tree. Now we're going to the bar side. So winnowing is removing the cacao shell from the cacao. And then after that, we grind it until it becomes a liquid in liquid form. Now that you have your, what do you call this? The cacao liquor. It's pure cacao, no sugar, no anything. And then followed by that step is the conching, or it's a step in a layman's term, kind of fun described. It's like kneading of the cacao liquor, whereas we make sure that the whole mixture is homogeneous. This is also the time wherein we add additional ingredients. What makes a chocolate. So if we're making a milk chocolate, then we add the dairy, the sugar. But of course, if we're making a tablea, then we're definitely not adding anything. Followed by conching is tempering. So what happens in tempering is that it is the tempering that gives your chocolate a nice shine and snap. So you want that nice shine look, and when you break a piece, you want to hear that little snap. So it's all because of tempering. And once it's fully tempered and placed in our cold room, we demold it like the one you see in the screen. Our team demolding a chocolate bar, and then you now have your chocolate. And so, what's the major difference with with the tree to bar and the compound chocolate, or the one you usually see in the supermarket? Is that, of course, with tree to bar, we put highlight, we put emphasis in traceability. So as I mentioned, for our chocolate, we are single origin. We also do single estate and single variety, which I can show you later on when we go to the Regalo bar. Whereas for the bulk, of course, the origin isn't usually, it's not identified. But like coffee, you want those origins identified because all of those origins have their unique flavors. And cacao has the ability to adapt the flavors growing next to it. So that's how you get those berries, those raisins, those vegetal notes. And then followed by the variety. So as I mentioned, we carefully classify them. So when we make the chocolate, we get to taste those nuances, those sweet little flavors, that's unique to each variety and land. Whereas for bulk, there's no proper segregation. And then we go now next to ingredients. So for tree to bar like Auro, we only use pure 100% cacao butter, simple ingredients, and no extenders. Whereas of course with bulk, they use like plant or vegetable oil or the likes, and of course artificial ingredients. Like for example, for our regalo, it's only a 2-ingredient bar. It's muscovado sugar and cacao. So everything you're gonna taste later are just all cacao. They're all cacao goodness. And then through this process, we get to highlight those flavor profiles that's unique to each land. And then for us, we of course really prioritize our partnered farmers. We provide these programs for them, and we want to give back and to give back the glory to them and highlight all of this. And we purchase the beans directly from them. Whereas of course with bulk, there's really low buying practices. There's some middlemen with it. And lastly, of course, with chocolate, as you've seen in the few slides, we're involved from literally tree to the bar, and of course, once it's delivered to you. Whereas for the bulk, it's not always the case. So that's we go for the whole chocolate making process. I'm really excited to hear the similarities with the rum later on. So I'm gonna give it back to Aaron.
That's super cool. Yeah, I'm always fascinated learning more about chocolate and how chocolate is made, especially seeing such, I guess I'd say, artists as you guys going from tree all the way to bar as well. So it's super cool. Thank you for that. And I think from here we can actually create our first cocktail together. So for this, we'll be using our Don Papa rum. From our brown bottles, we'll be using the one that's around half full. This is our cacao infused syrup here, and we'll be creating a cocktail called the Cacao Old Fashioned. So we'll start by pouring our little bottle into our glass. So this has our syrup. So what I did here was I used the Auro cacao nibs and cooked this with water and sugar to create a syrup. And then I've also added in our bitters as well. So the bitters sort of acts as like a binding agent in a way to tie everything all together and creates this lovely, refreshing flavor for ourselves. Next up, we will add our Don Papa rum. So we'll be adding 60 ml. If you guys have a jigger at home to measure your shot or a shot glass, that's great. If not, you can use your brown bottle. These guys are 30 ml, so fill it up twice. I'll give it a go, see if I can do it. Steady hands here. So one, there we go. And one more. So this is a twist on the classic old fashioned, where it's mainly spirits, bitter, and then sweet as well. But using the Auro cacao nibs, we got this wonderful sort of rich chocolate notes through the drink as well. And then it ties in really nicely with our cocktail pairing as well. So next up, we want to add some ice into our glass. So excuse my fingers. This is splashing everywhere, but I don't mind. So a couple cubes. And we want to give this a stir to chill this down and to combine the ingredients together. So around 10 seconds should be great. So what you'll find with this cocktail is you're definitely getting those notes from the Don Papa rum like we tried with it needs, but now adding an extra dimension as well with the cacao infused syrup. So this adds some wonderful sort of deeper chocolate notes as well. And there we have our cacao old fashioned. Cheers, everyone. Happy weekend. Lovely. So this one's a little bit on the sweeter side here, but still a really nice sort of sit down and enjoy the cocktail during a weekend or after a busy day sort of experience. And to pair this, I will hand over to Louise, who will tell us about the chocolate we're going to try with this.
Okay, super lovely flavors out there. I get those hints of cocoa. It's not really like, right up your, when you take a sip, but they're lingering. For me, it's more on the later note, and then heightening those more berries for me. Now let's see how it would pair, with our 42% milk chocolate. So it's actually pretty much the same. You take a look, take a smell, and then let it melt. Don't chew it. Then try from there. Let's try to identify, or let's see how it would develop further the flavor. So as you can see here in the slide, we're also using Davao blend, meaning to say it's from the beans, different cacao beans from our different partners from Davao. So the origin is Davao. So when you say single origin, it can be a region or a country. In our case, of course, it's Davao, Philippines. So our 42% milk chocolate is actually it's unique because it's a higher percentage of cacao presence in the chocolate compared to your usual milk chocolate. So usually with milk chocolate, it's below 30%, but with us, it's 42%, and you get those nice balance of cacao and that creamy sweetness, of course, that we all love from our milk chocolate. But I also want you guys to try to identify or look into it, like how the same chocolate made with the same blend tastes differently. So of course we have here with the milk making it, more on the sweeter side, but in terms of like texture, the other one doesn't have milk and this one has milk. So are they similar? Is this more, more creamy, or do you get any grainy? How does the mouth feel? Did it last longer compared to the other one? And of course, once you finish the piece, try again sipping, of course, the cocktail you made, and then maybe you can share with us like what you think or how it elevated, or are there any changes after taking a sip?
Yeah, I think with the 42% milk chocolate, like you're mentioning those creamy notes as well. That's why I really wanted to pair this chocolate with the cocktail as well, because that mouthfeel and sort of the coating experience and the creamy nature of the chocolate actually pairs really well with something like an old fashioned, where it's a bit more spirit forward, a little bit on the sweeter side, but you get this wonderful, as you try the cocktail again with the chocolate, you get this heightened creaminess through it as well, that it is an interesting pairing.
Yeah, that's like what I call this, like so the milk chocolate, it has this really, it coats your palate with a really nice texture, mouthfeel, and sweetness. And then when you take a rum, which is, as you mentioned, more spirit forward, if you're it balances it out in that sense, and gives you more chocolate cacao punch, I would say, for me. And I just love those vanilla notes at the end. It's like, for me, it just like took off in that and really complemented. And I like how it became a bit spicy in the middle for me. So I got those a bit more of warmth in there, instead of like a cooling effect for the first pairing. This one gives me a bit more of a spice in there, and then more hug, like that. So warm hug that lasted after that one.
It's sort of separating everything out a little bit more, that you can taste each thing a little more clearly, right? Like you're saying. So sort of that midpoint where you get that little bit more spice, that's not really noticeable with the first pairing. Same with the finish here. It's sort of each area becomes a little bit more heightened, which is super cool. I really enjoy this pairing. Going back to the first chocolate though, I did want to ask, I noticed you've got the little award in the top right, the great taste. I wanted to ask about that. I forgot about that. Sorry. Can you tell us about that?
Okay, so for our chocolate, we've actually won, since the brand was launched, we've won up to date 52 international chocolate awards. So Great Taste is a European competition for all food, and including in one of their categories are confectionery and chocolate. So 2018 we won 2 stars. And then aside from that, we've been also continuously joining such competitions. Last 2019, our Pakibato bar actually won what do you call this, the top 20 cacao beans. So the cacao beans used for our Pakibato bar won top 20 cacao beans. So that's like the Oscars for world cacao beans. There's a story in that. And then of course we also have won gold for our dark milk chocolate for in the International Chocolate Awards. So it's like a competition for all chocolate making, and we're always very humbled to be able to showcase and put our Filipino cacao farmers, our cacao beans, and our chocolate in the global stage. So it's really a humbling and experience for us, and of course we're always happy to share this win with everyone.
Congratulations. Okay, so while you guys continue to enjoy the cacao infused old fashioned and the milk chocolate, of course, if you do have any questions, please feel free to shoot them through. But we'll sort of trudge on with our presentation this afternoon. So next up, we'll actually look at the production process for Don Papa rum and what we like to call the black gold and the magical and the rum making process. Sorry, the magical black gold and the rum making process. So this all starts with the sugarcane harvest on Negros Island, and this starts around October every year, and it can run until May or June of the following year. So as you see in this clip here, the cane is still hand cut, ensuring that it doesn't damage the stalks or lose any of the goodness or the flavor of the juice. Next up, all the stalks are sort of gathered up. They're put onto carabaos and then onto these wonderfully decorated trucks and transported to the sugar mill. So what you see here is the offloading at the sugar mill, where they'll take these stalks then and put them through these classic presses. So here we can see these presses in action. So these are very classic mills that date back to the 1920s or 1930s. So while maybe not as efficient at squeezing out every drop of the sugarcane as, say, the modern day mills of Thailand or Brazil, these presses here extract a really nicely rounded sugarcane juice, which creates a richer molasses for us and leads to a fuller flavored rum. So this spent fiber here is then turned into bagasse, which is also used as a renewable energy source for the island, also as a fertilizer for the farmers. And then for ourselves, we use the spent fibers as well to create bagasse cups. So biodegradable cups that are sort of environmentally friendly for our events. On this slide here, we can see that sugar cooking process. So this is when the juice gets extracted further to then create either white crystallized sugar, muscovado, but then the byproduct from all of this for ourselves is this molasses. So these slides in particular are showing the cooking process for muscovado. So because of the sugarcane varieties, the harvesting techniques and milling techniques, our molasses here in the Philippines is known for being really high in quality, and it has the local nickname of the magical black gold. From here, this molasses is then collected and transported to the distillery, where similar with the chocolate making process, we start that fermentation. So we add yeast and water, and we allow this to ferment for at least 72 hours. This is where all the flavors in the rum will start to take place, and the alcohol will start to form as well. So we jump back a slide, actually. That's when the distillation then takes place after the 72 hours. So we use continuous stills for Don Papa rum, and this is what creates our new make spirit. So the fermented rum juice will then travel through the stills, and because of using the continuous stills, we're able to separate out any harmful alcohols that might pop up during this sort of the front part, which is called the heads. These are separated out. And it's a lot easier to do that with a column still than with traditional pot still technique. At the end of that, our new make spirit comes in at 93.5% alcohol by volume. So super high alcohol content, and probably wouldn't want to try that neat. So before aging in the barrels though, we do bring our new make spirit down to 63.5% ABV using spring water from Mount Canlaon. And then our Don Papa rum is aged in 2 different barrel styles. So first up here on this slide, we have our American oak casks, which are ex-bourbon. So these were previously used for bourbon in the States. These particular barrels are known for their tighter grain. So you'll lose less liquid through seepage, or as you'll see later, we try to. But also these bourbon casks really help to impart the color that we get through our Don Papa rums. So bourbon casks really also give this vanilla flavor that you'll find through, as we've discovered with our Don Papa rum today. This is something that's quite common with your bourbon casks. The second style of casks that we use for Don Papa rum is also American oak, but it is ex-Spanish Rioja. So it was a wine cask previously. So what we do with Don Papa rum is we'll get these barrels and we'll put it through something that we call STR, or shaved, toasted, and roasted. So the inside of the barrel will give it a little shave. So if there's any spoilt flavors from the wine in the barrel, those get removed. And then we'll lightly toast it and roast it as well. So with the bourbon casks previously, those will be given more of a heavy char on the inside. So something that you'll find with spirits making, whether it's rum, whiskey, you'll char the inside of the barrel to help impart flavors. But with these STR casks, it's a lot lighter. So we'll just gently toast this. This sort of maximizes the flavor extraction and emphasizes the fruitier notes that we found through our Don Papa rum. From there, we sort of look at this aging process and a phenomena that occurs in the spirit making world that's known as the angel share. So the angel share is a term that refers to liquid lost to evaporation as the liquid rests in the barrels for however many years. So despite American oak having its tighter grain than other woods used for aging, the barrels aren't completely sealed. As they heat up in the weather here, they'll expand, but then as it cools, like this time of year, they'll contract a bit as well. So it's natural to lose some liquid with these long periods of time aging. And here on the tropics, the heat and humidity of the Philippine climate causes an evaporation between 8 to 12% per year. So looking at our Don Papa that we tried before, After the 7 years of aging, that means we've lost around half of the barrel to this angel share. In turn, though, this further helps in creating a very rich rum that is full of flavor, and as we've seen, imparts this lovely golden amber color. The last step to creating our Don Papa rums is given to our master blender. So our master blender knows the best barrels to select, where they've been resting in the warehouse, and how long they've been resting for. These will then get taken, blended together, and creating our rums. So typically with Spanish style rums, like the Don Papa, a dosage of cane sugar is added to round off the blend. This is just to make sure that for continuity's sake, the product tastes the same from day one as it does with day whatever. Like now we're going into our 10th year next year. So since day one until the 10th year, you'll have this product that is very similar to what it should be. The resulting blend then is brought down to 40% ABV, or alcohol by volume, again using the spring water from Mount Canlaon, and then we chill filter this to remove any particles. And as we've seen, the final liquid is this lovely golden amber color, fruity, with a smooth and delicate texture. And that's sort of the production process for Don Papa rum right there. And now we can get to our second cocktail for this session, which is our Don Chocoroni. So again, here I've done a cacao infusion, but this time it's for our sweet vermouth. So this cocktail here is a twist on a Negroni. So we'll be using our Don Papa rum. We've got some Campari and a cacao infused sweet vermouth. So if you guys look at your little amber bottles, there should be one with a little black dot, like a marker dot on the center of the cap. That's our infused vermouth. So we'll start with that and give that a little pour into the glass. So slightly different process for the infusion for this one, where the syrup on the first cocktail is sort of cooked to combine. This one I've just let steep overnight. So it really sort of gently extracts all the flavors from the cacao nibs and creates a lovely twist on a vermouth right there. Second up, we've got our Campari. So these are all 30 ml pours. And then same for our Don Papa rum as well. So we'll just give one bottle of Don Papa rum to get our 30 ml. Like so. And then same as the first cocktail, we'll add our ice and give this a gentle stir to chill and give a bit of dilution as well. Okay. And there we go. So this cocktail has a slightly different flavor profile than the cacao infused old fashioned. Here, because of the Campari and the sweet vermouth, we have sort of heightened bittersweet notes. So it is a little bit more tart on the profile, but you still get that lovely cacao notes from the infusion and the wonderful sort of richness from the Don Papa rum as well. There we go. Just a little taste. Ooh, nice. And there we have our Don Chocoroni. Cheers, everyone. If it is a little too bitter for the profile for you with the Campari, you can add a little bit more rum to sweeten the mix a bit, or stir a little bit longer just to add a little bit more dilution as well. And that should sort of balance everything back out for you. But to tell us about our final pairing with the Regalo, once again, here's Louise.
Hello, guys. Before I go into Regalo, actually, we have a question for you, Aaron. So they're asking how to make the cacao infused syrup. From Jonathan. So maybe you can share it.
So actually on your website, you guys have the bags of cacao nibs. So you can buy the cacao nibs already packaged and they're wonderful. So what I did to create that syrup is you can look online to find a recipe to create a simple syrup. Usually I will do around 250 ml of water to 1 cup of white sugar. That way they're sort of equal measurements in the measuring cup. And then I added, I believe it was 10 grams of cacao nibs to that infusion. So I bring that to the boil. I let that get up to the boil, start stirring the sugar to dissolve it. Then I'll add the cacao nibs in, continue to stir that until the sugar is dissolved. Then I'll let it sort of chill, cool down a little bit. And then I'll coffee strain it, like put it through a coffee filter. And then I'll bottle that syrup.
Sounds like sounds easy. I haven't tried making one, but probably I'll try doing it maybe by later or tomorrow. And something definitely I want to try making. And it doesn't have like a resting time or not necessarily. Like after staining it, pulling it, you can like no need to rest before using it.
No, that's it. I mean, once it's cool enough to filter, you can use it straight away. You can store it in the fridge as well to sort of extend its shelf life. And then, yeah, I mean, it'll last you for, well, it should be good to use for at least 2 or 3 months. And yeah, you can use it anytime. I mean, if you want to use that as your sweetener for your coffee or anything like that, you've got it up your sleeve. So
that I will definitely try as someone who likes coffee as well. And then, sorry, another question for Aaron is, Leo's asking if for the chocolate he's gonna add both bottles. I believe yes. Is that correct, Aaron? Oh, okay.
the top is the cacao infused sweet vermouth, and then the one without the dot is the Campari. So we'll add those two, and then one if we pour another bottle or another shot of Don Papa. So it's 3 parts.
There you go. So hope we answer your questions here, Leo. So now we're gonna go to the last bar, which is the Regalo. So Regalo is actually part of our reserve collection, and our reserve collection we treat it like wine, rum, and that. So it's a single year per harvest. So that's why there's a year and the packaging. So it doesn't mean that the chocolate bar was crafted in the 2018, but the beans used were harvested during 2018. So in that sense, it's a limited edition chocolate bar. So this one, the chocolate under our reserve collection are special in a way that it's either a single estate or a single variety. When you say single varietal, it's the chocolate, or the chocolate is made with cacao beans from a single variety or specific variety. And through these, we get to highlight different notes, nuances, and of course, highlight the flavor of the land through its chocolate. So here, we follow the same steps. Take a look, smell, and then taste. With this one, this is only a 2-ingredient chocolate bar. So everything you taste is chocolate, cacao. Like there's no any additional ingredients to it. So all those flavors you get from it are definitely from the cacao itself. So you get a bit more on the green tea, green apple, and definitely since it has a higher cacao percentage, it gets a bit more acidic in that sense. But it would definitely be definitely complement if you pair it with the chocolate later on. So again, the same process. Try to identify the first, middle, and last notes if there's a change, and how about the mouthfeel compared to the first 2, and after how long did it last, and in terms of texture, did you get the nice snap? And of course, our reserve collection bars also. I hope I can show it. It features our special mold. So there you go. I hope you guys can see. So that was our logo in here. So it's a unique bar mold, of course, in the Auro. So this one, try to take a small piece, especially if you haven't tried chocolate with higher percentage. It can be a bit punchy, I would say, for those who's trying it for the first time. And then, of course, after tasting it, try taking a sip of the chocolate that we just made, and try to identify like what we did in the first 2 is like what changed? Did it heighten certain flavors, or did it balance it out, and those kinds of things? Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed this one sits a little bit further forward on the palate. So you're getting a little bit more of like the brighter notes towards the front, whereas say with the milk chocolate or the 64%, it was sort of a little bit more the entire mouthfeel. This one, you're getting some of these wonderful, like you mentioned there, whether it was the tea or the apple, just towards the front of the palate instead, and it's a wonderful chocolate.
Thank you so much. So, if you taste those fruits and sweetness, it's definitely what plays a large role in that is, of course, the flavors of the cacao, and the harvesting technique, the fermentation, and the post-harvest protocols that we do, which is of course very similar to what Don Papa do. Like they making sure that the protocols are followed, and of course maintained. And the thing that we want to highlight with the reserve collection is that actually we want to try we want to show how the flavors of the cacao change per year, like in terms of nuances. Of course, it's not forward. Like it's not like, oh, it tasted like a badly put, like an apple, and then the next year it's gonna be orange. It's more of like highlighting those little changes and which notes are more emphasized in this harvest. So it's not, and then something that's very interesting, of course, and we want to share.
So I guess that depends then on something like weather per year, whether it's rainy season, like if it's a El Nino, whatever it is. If you have too much rain or less rain, that'll affect the bean and the flavors that you get then, right?
Yeah, there's really those natural elements that all plays a big role with cacao. And as I previously shared, it has the ability to adapt the flavors of the trees or fruits growing next to it, and of course, which we later further enhance during the post-harvest process. So for us, in terms of fermentation, it varies the number of days and number of turns per cacao beans, and what recipe you're trying to make this time in that way.
Cool.
And I really find the process very interesting, like how the similarities, and I really enjoyed watching the Muscovado sugar bean cook. It's like it gives you that very euphoric feeling. Like when I hope you guys can visit the chocolate factory soon. You also have that kind of feeling, like seeing the chocolate being poured and then being put in the mold. It's like always happy to see those processes.
Absolutely.
So how do you find it with pairing it with the chocolate?
It's actually super nice. Like I personally, I'm a big fan of the bitter notes of the Campari with this cocktail. So having it with something like you're mentioning with the Regalo, it's very interesting to try these notes together. I will definitely have a try of this with the old-fashioned style as well, to just see how maybe a sweeter cocktail pairs with sort of a higher percentage, and just see the differences that I find. But it's super enjoyable so far. I do have a question from one of our many viewers. Jonathan has a question that says, does chocolate age the same way wine does?
If we're referring, it's kind of like we're still in the so in the chocolate industry, we still have yet to look into there are people we know that do age their chocolate. So like they just store it and then try tasting it, and that's something that we want to explore actually with the research. So, if you get a 2018 bar, get one and maybe try to keep it, and then try pairing it with the 2019 one when we go for the next harvest.
Nice. We've had quite a few comments come through, as I can see here. So everybody loves the contrast of flavors. They want us to collaborate more. Actually, I think that is probably a perfect time to segue to our next sort of element as well, which is the holidays. And we might be able to tease in a little bit of what we have upcoming for the holidays as well. Let's see if we can get that slide up, shall we? Yeah, so I think this should be happening sort of in the next few weeks, but Louise, you have some news to share for us, right?
Yes, we're very super excited at all the superlatives. We're very excited. So this is the first time we're actually showing this. So this is a Don Papa and Auro chocolate collaboration. So it's a 70% dark chocolate rum infused, and we're very excited. This will be available in the coming weeks, and something to look forward to as well in Boozy. So if you guys enjoy this whole experience, I guarantee you'll definitely love that chocolate bar. I swear.
I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait. We've been sort of trying the little R&D along the way the last few weeks, and it's fantastic. I can't wait.
Imagine the chocolate. So we had the pairing, and then imagine it being in a one bar. So
Exactly.
definitely a unique experience. So we won't steal so much, so you guys have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
I think Don Papa also has something for the coming holidays.
I think that was it for now for ourselves. But yeah, I just want to, before I get into what I'm going to share next, I just want to say thank you for joining us today. It's been fantastic to have you share all about Auro chocolates and to co-lead this this tasting together. I mean, I've learned a lot about just that process that goes into creating such a wonderful chocolate, and I've had a lot of fun. Thank you very much,
Thank
Louise.
you. I definitely had a lot of fun, and it's always a pleasure to learn something new and learn more about the craft of making rum and how similar it is with chocolate. And I hope everyone that joined us tonight also learned a few more things about the art, and I would say science in making chocolate and rum, how to taste them, how to enjoy them, and happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday indeed. So next up, I think we're just going to share a lovely little promotion that we